this before, but in the beginning of there's like a 10-second delay. So we'll be talking, and then if there's like audience participation, it's like a little bit delayed. Um, but we are live on Let's Talk Clutter with Karen. Karen, thank you so much for being my guest today. My last minute guest.
I had just decided I was going to offer up my time for one, and there it was, the opportunity.
So funny how the universe does that to us
I know.
sometimes. Karen, how did you come to be a guest on this podcast?
Well, you threw out that you needed someone on the Facebook page, and I said, oh, there you go. Just made a decision to do it, and there's my opportunity.
I love it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your history with clutter?
Yeah, well, I think that, I had clutter problems, from when early on. It really got to be a lot of clutter in my life because I was a flight attendant and I was in and out, flying in and out, packing, unpacking. My life was never normal in that fashion. Um, so, it was like I had a room at one point where I would just do the packing and unpacking. And you should see what it looked like in there. And, so that was just, adding to clutter. I was never home to take care of a lot of the things that would have achieved not having so much clutter in my life. And the clutter just kept getting worse and worse. I had roommates, so I would keep the rooms that we all used. I would make sure that I wasn't cluttering them up, and I was able to do that. But my bedroom always had a problem. In fact, I had a roommate that would come in and clean it every now and then. And I would come home and it would be she wouldn't throw anything of my stuff out. She'd put it on the side, but she was bored, so she would clean it, but it would get back the same way again, because that was my only little clutter area at that time that I allowed. So, but I was already into being a clutterer.
So interesting. I actually don't know if I knew that you were a flight attendant. How long were you a flight attendant for?
43 years.
Wow.
Full time because I chose not to have children, so I didn't even go out on maternity leaves. My financial planner said, I never saw anyone get that much Social Security. I said, yeah, because I worked full time.
So for 43 years, your schedule was just totally up in the air?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's why when people say, oh, I went away for a 5-day vacation and I just can't catch up. I'm in the second month and I still didn't get the bags unpacked. And I'm like thinking, whoa, I had to do that like every 3 or 4 days at one point.
For 43 years.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So this whole idea of having a packing room makes total sense for a flight attendant.
Well, I had the room. That was when I was married and I had a house and we had a guest room. Well, when the guests would come, I'd have to quick get everything out of there, because when there wasn't a guest coming, that place looked like a bomb blew up. It was just real easy to throw the stuff out and grab other stuff and put it in and try and stuff on and throw it on the side. I mean, because I was doing it all the time and I just didn't take the time, and the clutter was attracting more clutter.
As it does.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, are you able to travel light?
I haven't traveled. I have been in isolation with my cluttering. Well, I'm not in total isolation now, but my being out of isolation is mostly involved in the community here with Clutter Boss, and other Zoom things that I'm a part of. I don't have any friends right here now. When I got divorced, I came back here. I grew up in this house. And then my mother passed away shortly after that. And my sister passed away in 2018. She was living here with me because she had sold her house. We both got divorced. And then we were both living back in this house here. She was a clutterer. And of course, I am a clutterer. So when she passed away unexpectedly, really unexpectedly, there I was, not only with all my clutter, but I had to get all her clutter out. And I thought, this is impossible. I'll never be able to do this. I didn't even know how to get started on my own. And that's when I started going out there and trying to find ways to help myself to get started. I knew I just had to find ways to get started. And, I had a cluttering counselor and I didn't get too far. He was nice, but I didn't get too far with anything with him. And then I belonged to a spiritual 12-step clutter program. And that really started me on having accountability available to start doing stuff. And it took me about a year and a half. I got my sister's stuff out. She had she had canceled out her storage unit and put it all in the back room here where I live.
Oh,
So it
no.
was up to the ceiling, like it was a storage area in there. And she put the rest of it in the back shed that we had that was supposed to be for like lawn chairs and stuff that got put away, from the summer. You'd open it up and it was just packed. The whole thing was packed. So I had to get rid of all that stuff, and I donated it out little by little by little. And found out real fast that I couldn't take 10 hours each time I was going to do that because it just, for the next 2 days, I was good for nothing. My
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
just, so I learned real fast that I have to pace it. It's didn't, like you always say, it didn't come in overnight. It's not going to go out overnight.
It's so, I mean, it's really, there's so many complications when you have multiple generations of clutter and you have multiple people's clutter and you're dealing with grief at the same time as trying to tackle your home. There's just layers and layers here.
Yes, and I was caretaking my mom when I first got divorced. So I moved into my sister's house in the basement, and it wasn't conducive to all the stuff that I had brought with me. And I did have a storage unit. I had a storage unit for 12 years. I was paying $250 a month for it. I think I went in there twice in 2 years. And when I went and got it emptied out, I used to let other people use space in there because, there was space and I was paying for it. But oh, the money when I added up the money, I was just appalled that I had wasted all that money, and there was nothing there that I really needed or wanted. I donated just about 85% of it out.
Yeah.
And I was paying for the stuff in there. It just it didn't make sense, but I did it. It makes sense now because other clutterers also have storage units or had storage units. So I know now that it's part of my whole spiel with clutter, you know.
Right.
So I don't feel like, what the heck was I thinking? I mean, it just is part of it.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of things that are just part of it that we have to kind of come to terms with and just be okay with because it's a learning process, it's a growing process, and there's a lot to learn.
Yes, and it's ongoing. It's like I learn something every day, and then a lot of times I'm just reminded, like in boot camp this week, I'm reminded of a lot of things that I do know, and I don't even realize that I have retained them and have put some of those things in place. I don't give myself credit that I am learning and I am getting better with the clutter. And it's just, it goes at its own pace. It's like just because I went boom, I want it all gone. Not going to happen.
It does go at its own pace, and that pace is really perfect for you as long as you're continually moving forward in some way, shape, or form,
Right.
because you have to learn the lessons, and it takes a long time to learn lessons. Sometimes you have to learn them over and over and over again. It's exhausting.
It is, and just constantly trying to keep all the stuff in. And I think I've learned. I don't know if it was with you or with something else that we're not really meant to
Mhm.
contain all that stuff. That's for my iPhone or my computer, not
Right.
for here. But I try to retain it all, and then I'm overwhelmed, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting anything done because I'm just like the spinning. It's like a spinning mind, that has to be slowed down. So then I have to, start doing slow down things like putting meditation or tapping in, for my own self care, and realizing that these things are going on. It's all part of it, and working on changing the habits that got me into doing it all the time. You know?
100%. I think trying to retain a lot of information is a symptom of both our society today and it's
Mhm.
a complication of clutter. It's another way that we clutter. We think we have to have all the information and retain all the information and be able to pull out that information as needed. And there's no way that our brains can possibly do that.
And the other thing that sticks out at me that recently I heard was, I need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So I can have all the notebooks and notes and boot camps and everything that I'm learning. Um, but unless I put some of it into place and take action on it, what is it? It's just a whole bunch of information.
That's just clutter.
Yeah, clutter, information clutter. Yeah, more stuff
It's
than
just
I have to hold
clutter.
on to.
Taking action can be the hardest part. So we learn so much, we know what to do, but taking that next step is so challenging. And a lot of people, are just waiting for motivation to do it. And I'm reading a book right now, and they say, you don't need motivation, you need drive. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, you really need to feel the intention of what you want to achieve. What is your goal? What is my final goal? I have to keep that in mind. And why is that goal so important to me? And then that's where the drive comes in. That's where I must do these things. It's a must. It's
Mhm.
not, well, I can, or maybe I will, or yeah, that sounds good. No, it's a must. I have to start doing the things that are going to start taking me forward into that goal.
So, Karen, I'm curious, what are your whys if you feel like sharing them?
Um, I don't have any friends here. I was always a social person, and I'm feeling like I'm getting ready to be back out there more socially because all my socially is virtual and on the phone
Mhm.
really right now. And I don't have family. I have family here, but not that's got to keep me here. And I'm in retirement. It's very expensive here in New York. Thank God my mother paid my house off here, so I don't have that expense. But taxes and just running a big house like this, I don't need this kind of space. I mean, to pay all this money for just me, this is like if you have a family, yeah, then might make sense. But I want to go down to Florida, to the villages where people are my age, where there's social things going on. Um, at least that's where I believe I want to do. I don't know. There's more crocodiles and snakes, and every time you turn around, there's some other kind of animal that's crept its way in there. But um, and sinkholes. But so maybe I might change my mind. I don't know, but I got to get out of here.
Well, you want to have the option.
Yes, yes. I want to have some. I'm on the other end of life where there's not as many years as there was back there. So I have to. I want to still enjoy life, but I got to place myself in a different type of atmosphere. I want to travel still. As a flight attendant, I have free air travel. I just haven't been using it. Well, during the pandemic, I had no rhyme or reason that I
Desire. Yeah.
wanted to. I would just watch what was going up in the air with these rumbles and everything, and I'm like, I don't want to be up there with that. But I do have free airfare and I want to start traveling again. That's what I want to do. And if I have all this clutter, it impedes me being able to do all that stuff and still be able to achieve my goal. I don't have 50 years to achieve this. It's like, so I have to make it priority.
Yep.
And then eventually I'll get back to doing more travel. You know.
We apparently have a ton of Floridians who are listening to this
I
podcast right
love
now.
Florida though because I love their governor and I love the freedom down there. And to me, it's like the place to go to now. And I'll tell you, it was like mass exodus during the pandemic from New York. They went down to Florida. So I'm still figuring it's the place I want to go. Oh, and Disney World is my favorite place to play. Oh gosh, that's like I'm like a little kid when I'm there. So it's good to be near there too.
So, Karen, top three travel destinations that are on your bucket list right now.
Well, I'm a Caribbean person. That's where I always would head. My mother lived in St. Croix for quite a time. So I was like down there on my days off and flew, you know, um, I would fly and then come back and then go down there for my days off. So I really got into being in the Caribbean and I've done most of the islands more than once, many of them. But I haven't been to Turks and Caicos yet, so I'm looking to do that. I like cruises, but I'm watching, since the pandemic, it's like craziness on the cruises. But that was one of the things, and I heard that out of Florida that they have like lots of specials for people in my age category to be able to afford to go as often as I really want to. Plus, I get an airline discount, so it's like it's almost like why stay home? Go there and eat. I don't have to cook for myself. My bed's being changed and I'm getting clean towels. It's like,
It's luxury, all right.
so those are the kind of things that I want to do. I'm not that much. Vacation to me is not getting on and off a bus and stuff and sightseeing. Occasionally, I like to do something like that, but not for a long period of time. But I could hang in the Caribbean for a month and it wouldn't bother me in the least. Also, it keeps me from having to deal with all the responsibilities of everyday life, and my clutter keeps piling and piling and piling. I'm just thinking of that now. I might have to start rethinking that whole picture.
Well, hopefully you are actually learning and really truly changing these clutter habits now.
Yeah.
Do you see that happening, or do you feel like you're
Yes.
still kind of like on the cusp?
Well, I catch myself doing them. Now I see that I'm doing, and like I'll walk something maybe into the room, but what I want to do is just drop it on the bed instead of putting it where I know it goes. And I catch myself doing that. I say, well, Karen, that's not taking it to completion. Complete the darn thing, because leaving it on the bed is just clutter. And then you're going to do it again and more clutter and more clutter. And then it just keeps coming back. So I catch myself with those habits that I know I'm desperately in need of changing. And so I am working on certain things and things. I'm retaining things that help me, in this whole process.
So, Karen, what would you say is your biggest hurdle right now with the clutter? Like, can you identify like what's the biggest challenge that?
Well, I was sick with COVID for 2 months. That just set me, to not be able to do anything with the clutter. Plus, the clutter is piling up because I'm also sick and I'm just trying to take care of myself and feed myself and stuff. And I didn't have the energy to be doing all this maintenance and everything. So, for 2 months, that's for me is a lot to setback for me with my clutter.
Yeah,
It's a
definitely.
big hurdle that I have so many major things that are all yelling at me. Must do now, must do now, must do now. And it's just like, whoa. I try. It's really hard not to get overwhelmed and just hide under the blankets and not come back out. So, I work really hard on just talking back to it and saying, just keep going, Karen. Nobody could expect you to do any more than the hours of the day have for you to do. You know,
It's
you're
true.
okay. Just keep doing something, towards it. And eventually, hopefully, I'll get caught up.
Karen, what's been a strategy that you've used that's been really effective?
Well, I do. I have ongoing kept donations scheduled to go out. Now, I'm lucky around here that the donation truck will come the same day every week. So I could schedule any week. But I've been scheduling for like a month. So that I could gather up enough stuff. I don't have a problem with once I put it in the back, waking up at night and digging through it and getting stuff back out. No, thank God. I don't try to take it back out of the box. So it's not like it's in the back room where I do all this packing up, and it stays there until I schedule it out. And I don't know, I had this thing where, I thought I had to have a lot of stuff going out. Well, most of the time I did. But then Marie, mentioned the fact that they're not going to count how much you have out there. They're just going to come and take whatever you have. So whatever it is, just put it out there. So that's what I did this time. And that was easy to say rather than saying, oh, I'm just going to cancel it and then reschedule it. And now I still got the stuff in here.
Yeah, getting the stuff out of your house is so key. Like
Yeah,
you haven't decluttered until it's left your house. You've made a decision, but you
yeah.
haven't actually taken the full action.
The space is still clogged up until I
Mhm.
get that stuff out. And it just feels so good to be able to take a picture Oh, I was scrambling trying to figure out how to get the picture on Facebook page today. That's the only reason why people haven't seen more pictures of my, what I'm achieving because I couldn't remember how to get it on there. Somehow I did though. So, got the picture of it. But yeah, so today I'll be scheduling another one for another month, and it can always be changed because they come every week.
Yep.
That's really, really the ongoing thing that's helped me to get things out. The other thing is that I stopped going into stores except for grocery store, and I only go there like once a month because I have a tenant that picks up things in between because he's there like every night. I don't know, whatever, and he'll always say, "What do you need? What do you need?" So I don't go into stores and online shopping. I just get on Amazon when I need something, and it's something that I need that I would go into CVS or into some other store to get because it's a needed item that it's ongoing need. And so I'll order from Amazon. I didn't even sign up for Amazon Prime because I don't have time for the movies. I have Apple Music, so I don't need their music. And all I have to do is spend $25, which is the norm. You buy one item, it's usually 25.
Yeah, right.
I get free shipping. Okay, so the shipping might come a little bit earlier. There's this huge Amazon place down the way from my house. It always shows up days earlier than they're telling me it's gonna
Mhm.
because they want me to take Prime. I'm not taking Prime. I don't need it. I don't have the time, for it. So it's that. And I went through the whole pandemic. I went not buying any clothes. And now, I've been on a meal plan since the summer and I've lost 50 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. I still want to do 20 more. I really feel like it's aging me in my face though, but what are you going to do? That's the way that is. And, but I'm definitely going to feel better in a bathing suit, that's for sure.
In
And,
Florida.
oh yeah, hopefully, yeah, in Florida. Yeah. And, yeah,
Karen, can I circle back to something that you
yeah.
said? You had this idea that you have to have a lot of stuff for a donation truck to come. And I think we have ideas about things that
Mhm.
who knows where they come from, but they're not real, right? They're just like our interpretation. And the more we can kind of shed those, declutter those, and embrace a different idea, it can really be helpful. I mean, this is a perfect example.
Yeah, limiting beliefs, which Amy did recently on that, and that's so true. It's like, where did that come from? I think that they're going to say, Why did she even call us here? There's only this stuff. Why am I here? This is what my interpretation of what is. They don't care,
They don't care. This is their job, is to go and pick up stuff.
yeah, maybe it's just one bag. I don't know what other people are putting out there. So where am I getting this from? But it's some kind of limiting belief that someone told me along the way, or I thought I interpreted along the way. And, I have many of them. I know probably most of us do. And it comes from being taught by the people that brought us up and society and school and, whatever, we learned, we were told all these things or I was, and I know that I've kept some inside, and in a subconscious.
Yep.
And it directs me to do some things that don't really make sense if I really look at them now and say, well, that might have helped me somewhere in the past, but it's not helping me now.
Right.
In fact, it's hindering me now.
Mhm.
I need to change my thoughts about it. So it's a lot of mindset.
One of my big things that I learned when I started working in people's homes was we all have the same stuff. And so we tend to like overvalue something that we own. But if you
Yeah.
saw it in somebody else's house, you wouldn't think anything of it. So like this idea that, you know, donation centers are judging us based on what we're bringing in, or that the recycling center is somehow knowing that that is your recycling and not, your next door neighbor's recycling, or whatever it is. We just overvalue or put more emphasis on how people think about us. But the reality is most people are just so busy thinking about themselves and their job and whatever, they're not paying attention to like
Oh,
what
right.
donations you're putting out, or No one
Well,
really cares, right?
for me, that's the same like the food. Now, food was a big clutter for me because I'm a food addict, and I was not practicing what I knew I needed to do to keep myself in a healthy place. Although I have been now again, I'm planning on sticking to that now forever because that's when I feel the best and everything falls into place. So that is a piece of clutter too. And that's hard to work at changing everything like that when you're also working on other forms of decluttering. It's like a lot, to
It's a
do
lot.
to do at once. So I have to, remember to pat myself on the back that I am doing that too, instead of saying, Karen, you're not doing anything, you're not getting anything done here, which isn't the truth.
No, it's not the truth.
Yeah. And I think that I went off on a tangent. I don't remember what I was
No,
originally.
that's okay. We were just talking about how, like, we feel like people are judging us, but most people are like just really consumed with
Oh, I know
their own.
the reason why I brought up the food is that it is like that. It's like if I would bring a scale, years ago, scale or certain foods that I'd bring with me if I was out eating, with other people, and a lot of my friends would say, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't bring the scale in there. They're going to see me. They're going to." I said, not one person asked me what I was doing. They're so into their own food. They don't care about mine, So where do I think that I'm it and they're all going to be staring at my food? It's
No,
all about
that's
me.
it. Like, that's how we all feel, right? Like, because we are the center of our own universe, all of us.
Yes,
And,
exactly. Wow,
and
yeah,
that's okay
yeah,
until it limits you from doing stuff that you need to move forward.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with that, Jess.
So, Karen, we're coming up on a half an hour. This time always flies here.
Yeah.
So, my question for you is if somebody is having a hard time getting started or is just totally stuck, what would be your number one piece of advice for them?
Um, well, if they're feeling like they don't want to think about putting any money into themselves, and they can join It's All Clutter, right? Because there's
That's
no
great.
charge for that, and they can get an idea of what this community offers just by doing that. And there's a lot that they'll get, and then probably realize. I would realize pretty soon that $10 a month to be and prioritize your sanity is nothing for what you're going to get, you
Hmm.
know. And there are a lot of people I see in prioritize your sanity that have just flown away with decluttering. I mean, they're just doing it,
Yep.
In a lot of ways, I'm envious because I think they're doing it better than me. And I've been in here a lot longer. I'm in Club Boss Academy. So, um, whatever, but like you said earlier, we're all going to be addressing it from different places where we need to the most at that time. And so I can't be looking at somebody else's recovery and saying, oh, well, therefore mine isn't as good. No, that's not the case. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone, and that's a really great piece of advice. Focus on your own progress because you have no idea what other people have been through or how they've gotten to this point or how long they've been doing this for or what their support is like. You just don't know. And
Right.
I mean, I think that's so key. Just don't compare. You're making forward progress. Compare new you to yesterday you. And that is, that's really the biggest deal.
And keeping a to-do list, of what I have done. When I start thinking I'm not doing anything, that to make a list, when I remember to make the list, or sometimes I just have to make the list because I think I haven't done anything. And then when I start making the list, I'm like, what are you talking about? You did this, and this. It's only halfway through the day.
Yep.
So a to-do list reminds me that I am doing.
To do, to da.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ta-da. Ta-da.
I love doing these interviews because I learn so much more about the people that we work with and the people in our communities. And I am like further reminded we all have our own story and our own reasons that we have clutter. Flight attendant for 43 years. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yes, and seeing counselors throughout the years, I always did that on and off. I suffer with depression, so luckily, finally found a medication that does the job for me and has been doing it for like 7 years. So it lifts the things that depression can paralyze me with.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
um, and now why was I telling you about depression? I can't remember what I
Well,
was.
just everyone's story and how we got here.
Yeah. Um, you want me to tell you how I got here? Oh, you know how I
No,
got
I'm
here?
saying that's what we were talking about, was just kind of like how everyone has their own story and how they got to this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Oh, and some people, might not be into the depth of clutter that I am in. And so if they really jump in, they might be more capable of jumping in and getting this stuff out. And what I wanted to say is that if I don't change me, then the same clutter keeps coming back. And I've had spaces that I've decluttered over and over. And I'm looking at some right now that are back the way they were.
Mhm.
Because if I don't change the habits that cause that, it's going to keep, I'm doing the same thing the same way. I'm going to get the same results.
Right.
So for me and
That's
my,
the definition of insanity, right?
yeah, oh, yes. And so insanity for me would be shuffling around all this clutter. Um, so I felt that I needed to be working more on my mindset and learning the things that I need to change and do differently before I, expect that all the clutter is going to get out. And to spend my time just trying to organize it all and everything, it's useless. It's futile, to me. So I
Total
just,
waste of time. Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
So I figured for myself that I come from the place, not how much has gotten out of my house, although stuff has gotten out, but how much I'm changing from within and eliminating the things that cause clutter.
Yep, 100%. If you don't walk this walk and talk this talk and
Yeah.
go through this process yourself, nothing's going to change. And that's
Mhm.
why it's so worth doing this, because it does result in lasting change.
Yeah, and not bringing anything more in here. I heard you say on the boot camp again about I think something about if your toilet's clogged, you're not going to put more stuff in there or something like that. I don't remember, but it reminded me. Yeah, I have to just stop, keep the flow from coming in,
Yep,
as well as getting out.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It's two sides. Stop the flow in, increase the flow out.
and I have to get
All right, Karen. We're going to wrap up. We're at 32 minutes. This was an incredible interview. I am so grateful that you had the thought to be a guest and then immediately responded to the post, and we made this happen last minute. I think it was
yeah.
totally meant to be. And I have thoroughly enjoyed learning more of your story. So thank you so much for sharing with me and with everybody who's watching.
And thank you, Jess. And I'll always remember you were riding in the car to pick up your daughter when you talked to me and signed me up for CBA. I was so impressed. I
That's
said, wow, this businesswoman called me from her car, in the
right.
middle of her day and life.
I remember that phone call well. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. If you're on live right now, don't forget we have a boot camp call at noon in 27 minutes. And Karen, thank you so, so, so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much for the opportunity, Jess.
Bye for now.
Bye.